Okay, so here's the interesting thing about this show, is that no matter what, you have to draw comparisons to the last show, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now, with that said, I still think this is a good show. I like this show. But I am seeing this major problem. The major problem is that Avatar found a way to very well mix this continuing story with other stories that seemed episodic but could still also tie everything back in together. And the reason this jumps to mind is in this episode I realized if I had to hear one more time, you know, there's only so much you can chase after Amon. Why don't you relax for a bit? I am going to punch someone. Because it's like, no, there's not enough chasing of Amon. Go after Amon. You have this cool, awesome villain, and I want to see more of him. I want to see more conflicts with him. But you see him for an episode, and then it's like, you're going to go 2 or 3 episodes pretty much without him. And in Avatar, you could get away with that because you were constantly moving. You were constantly in a new location. There was something else that these characters could discover, either, again, different location or about themselves. And maybe this is another interesting problem about this show, is that a lot of people say, well, Korra's a lot more adult. I don't know if that's totally true. Elements are much more adult. Other elements are much more childish. And what I mean by that is that you have the actual story, or the issues that they're dealing with, I should say, are more adult. What was Avatar? That was evil bad guys trying to take over the world. Yes, that has happened in past history, but we've seen this quite a bit, and every kid can understand bad guy trying to take over the world. Got it. This is about people who are born with this advantage, and whether or not that's making this social, economical world work, or if it's throwing it out of balance and so forth. I mean, what kid is going to understand that? So, on the one hand, I get it, and it's sort of like the X-Men thing, you know, is this a legit argument or not? And sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, and it's very, very adult. On the other hand, the developments the characters are going through are so, I don't even want to say kid show, it's so high school. And yeah, I know they're teenagers, I got it, but, okay, draw a reference to another show. Daria handled teenage problems and stuff that happened in high school much better than this show did. Which is not to say this show is handling it horribly, it's really not. It's that compared to the last show we had and how high they raised the bar, and seeing how the rest of the show is trying to be very, very adult, this serves as very distracting. And these are not really bad characters either. You can identify with them, but these problems that they're making and these conclusions, actually the conclusions are okay, but the problems they're coming across are far too familiar for a show that's trying to do something really, really different, and it seems like it's falling too much on sort of these very common story arcs that you see a lot, especially in kids programming. With that said, just talking about, like, you know, God, why don't you show them on, you know, more and more? We have The Aftermath, which of course doesn't really have much of Amon in it. But it is starting to get the story going a little bit. But again, just when you think that love triangle stuff is done, they keep hinting, oh, no, we're not done yet. We still got a little bit here, a little between your teeth, little love triangle. There you go, still there. It's just, oh, so that's annoying. But this episode does get to something, which I like, and it does come onto this development that you could kind of see coming. I was sort of saying, like, okay, either the daughter or the father is a villain. You know, it has to be one or the other, and it turns out it's the father. And you get some cool machines at the end, so these Bioshock machines. Actually, they look like the final boss in the Simpsons arcade game, for, like, the people that remember that. It's even down to the old guy inside pushing the buttons, so that's pretty cool. And you get kind of a cool action sequence with it. you get your Darth Vader moment of the father going to the daughter saying, "Join me." I'll never join you. Take that, Dad. So we have this new, what's the word I'm looking for? This new teammate on board, essentially. And that's cool, and it looks like, why am I forgetting her name? Toph's daughter. I'm just gonna keep calling her that. Yeah, I'll get it next time. But it looks like, she's now going rogue and wants to stop Amon on her own terms and so forth. And, great, but at the same time, you kind of feel like, come on, let's get to, let's actually get to the meaty stuff here. Every time you watch it, it's like, we're a little closer, we're a little closer. No, let's just go. And I think if it did a better job distracting me from that, from the fact that this is going slow, because by God, this only has 12 episodes. Avatar went very slow when you really think about it. They would drop little bits of information, but there's lots of filler episodes here and there, but you were so enjoying the characters that didn't matter. And these characters, I mean, Mako started off interesting, but now he's just sort of bland, nice guy, and that's not as much fun. The daughter of the Juro 4 guy, could get interesting if they have fun with the fact that she had to, betray her father and leave him behind. Maybe you can do something like that. Or maybe she's a traitor. That'd be cool. Like, it was all just a big show. That seems unlikely, but wouldn't it be a cool twist? Anyway. The other guy, Mako's brother, just sort of seems like Sokka light. Sometimes you'll get a laugh. But it's just sort of like, we're watching Sokka, okay. And Korra, again, at points, I'm like, yeah, I really get her, I really understand it, and they capture that frustration. But at other times, you just sort of smack your head and say, okay, I know the lesson you're going to learn. Can we, can you do something more interesting with it? And that's sort of what I felt with this. It felt like for every little bit you move forward with the story, you're sort of pushing it a touch back with this recycled stuff that we've seen in other shows. And in most TV shows, I'm okay with that, because it's just become the status quo. It's, how do I put it? Okay, it's like the comic strip BC, the cavemen. It's like, is that really horrible? No. Is it really fantastic? Not really. It just sort of is what it is. Compared to Calvin and Hobbes, it's like, holy shit, no comic strip is as good as Calvin and Hobbes. It's like, what the hell is this guy doing? What are you guys doing, you other comic strips? How dare I've been reading your stuff when Calvin and Hobbes was here? It's like that. Now imagine the guy who did Calvin and Hobbes does a sequel to Calvin and Hobbes, like Calvin and Hobbes Grown Up. I heard there's a comic of that does exist. It's not by the guy who did Calvin and Hobbes, but I digress. Let's say this exists, and it only has maybe half what the original Calvin and Hobbes had. And it's different, and that's fine, but it's sort of falling into these other cliches that those other comic strips did. There's something a little lacking in that, and that's a little bit of a shame, but at the same time, if there's anything these creators have shown me, it's that wait till you get all the way through and see where it goes. And that is what I want to do. And I do want to see what happens. So I guess I didn't go into great detail about the specifics of this episode, because again, it's not like a bad episode. I mean, nothing's like bad, it's just not as good when you compare it to Avatar. And I know it's not supposed to be that good, but at the same time, if you're looking to make something better and just make it the best that you can, I would say that the way to do it is just sort of take back some of these other arcs and these storylines that we've seen a million times in other kid shows, unless you're going to do something new with them. And nothing that new has really been done yet. Again, maybe they will. That's something all the people commenting always say. It's like, wait, you're going to see what happens, blah, blah, blah. So, as it is now, for me, it's sort of like watching a better version of Harry Potter. Because Harry Potter, I know I made a comparison before, but it is sort of the same thing. It's like every time you're moving the story a little bit, it's like you got these character archetypes that are like, Seen them, not... Although I think these characters are more interesting in Harry Potter, personally. I think this world is more interesting in Harry Potter. That's why I say more interesting Harry Potter. But it's sort of the same problem. It's going very slowly and sort of falling into these other tropes that it doesn't need to fall into. It's not required. Especially them being older. When they're kids, there's a little bit more of an excuse. And even when they were in Avatar, they're still discovering it in a unique way. And that was so much fun. This show, I don't know if it has quite the fun aspect of it, but I don't necessarily need that. If it wants to go dark, if it wants to go grittier, that's fine. I get it. If anything, it's trying to be more adult. But don't rely on these other tropes that, again, we've just seen a million times. So, that's about it. Sorry, like I said, I couldn't go into too much other detail, but like I said, I still want to see where it goes, and it is a good show. I'm hoping it sort of ties together a little bit more, and I want to see it get going. It's like you always get a little hint there, and it's like, no, get going, get going. And if you're not going to get going, make these characters doing more cool stuff, you know. Hey, let's go back to our house. Let's go bending again, or the bending competition. Let's go dodge those spinny things like the leaf. It's just do something else. Go somewhere else. Like, you finally went into this ditch area. I'm like, finally, just a different location. Guess what? It's dark and hard to see. Just like a lot of the night scenes. It's just, it's still good animation, good angles, but man, let's just mix it up a bit. So, I'm sorry. I hope that doesn't I still like the show. I just want to see it get going. So that's about it. Sorry, it's been sort of scatterbrained here. And yeah, I'll see you next episode.